this online class. This is going to be the first lecture this week, the first episode, and it's really a pretty low-key lecture. Shouldn't take longer than a half an hour. I'm going to strive for 25 minutes. And we're just going to look at the Canvas site, which you see in front of you. I am going to go through the syllabus. I'm not going to read everything in the syllabus, but I'm going to spotlight important things that I would like to talk about and just to have you know about the course. Then we are going to take a brief look at the course schedule and see all of the different topics that we will be discussing throughout the semester. And I will give a little bit of insight on how I organize my lectures thematically, and what that is all about, what to expect from the course schedule. And then we're going to end with a look at the modules section, which is a very important part for you as students. That is where you will see all the lectures, you will see where the assignments are. It is your guide to getting through the material every week. So let me introduce myself again. I did in an earlier email, but I am your professor. I am Dr. Jess Ziegenfuss. I have a PhD in visual studies from the University of California at Irvine in Southern California. I've been teaching here at New Mexico State University for 2 years online, and I really enjoy teaching here, and I really enjoy working with the students here, and I'm just in general excited to be here this fall with you, and I hope that you are as well. We will be getting some help from our fine graduate assistant, Hamed, and he will be helping me with grading and some other things, but I will be the primary person you will talk to. You won't email Hamed, you'll be emailing me. Speaking of emails, the first very important part of the syllabus is my contact information and my office hour information. Here is my email address. You email me directly there, or you can use the handy inbox function in Canvas to email me directly. It's your choice. It doesn't matter to me, whatever is easiest for you at the time. I will have weekly office hours this semester, and this will be via Zoom, and I will be live there, waiting for students. And office hours are really tailored towards you, one-on-one meetings regarding questions about assignments, concerns about assignments, or individual course progress, grading. Anything around the course that you really need, more in-depth discussion, right? I'm always available to answer questions via email as well. It's your choice. Some students really like to have a face-to-face with the instructor. And so those, once again, online Fridays, noon to 2 p.m. or by appointment. If you can't make that window of time, send me an email and we can schedule a time that works for both of us. And in any case, whenever you want to meet with me via Zoom, use this Zoom ID. So this is my personal meeting room ID. Once you plug that in, you will be prompted to join my waiting room. And if I'm not with a student, I will directly just let you enter. If I am with a student, I might have you hang out in the waiting room for a couple minutes, and I'll send a message that says, hey, it'll be a couple minutes. But this is my contact information, my office hours. I'm here for you guys whenever you need me. I'm going to skip over the email policy etiquette, let you read that on your own. The course description, right? So orientation in art, introduction to the visual world. There's a lot packed in that title, and the course description is only one sentence, and I wanted to talk about it just to explain what that means. Orientation in art, introduction to the visual world. So the course description is this is a survey course, right? It is in the Department of Art. It is in art history, right? But it's less of a firmly historical look at art. You will notice we're going to pop around in different contexts, different histories, different cultures around the globe, from past and present. And maybe even making comparisons across time with different artworks from different cultures. And this is multicultural. Like I said, we're looking not just at, say, the Western European tradition of art. We're going to be looking at many different traditions of art in context. And so we're going to examine the principles and philosophy of the visual arts and the ideas expressed through them. It's a very general description, but very apt, right? This course is meant to orientate you, perhaps someone who has never taken an art history course before. Maybe you have, maybe you are a practicing artist, and want to understand the visual world and how it works, like in a larger sense. Art, like the production of art, is just one facet of the art world. There's design, there's graphic design, there's advertising, there's people who have spent their careers, scholars who spent their careers just talking about the power of images, and the act of looking itself has so much meaning and power. And so in this class, we're going to look at that. We're going to see, and we'll look at this when we see the course schedule. We're going to see the many different ways that vision happens, and how art comes into it, how philosophies come into it, how just popular culture and media come into it. And we're gonna go on a journey of how a vision in and of itself. So that's the gist of the course. Once again, I'll talk about it a little bit more when we get to the course schedule and you actually can see the topics. Learning objectives, these are for you to read. These are pretty standard here for orientation in art as a survey. They are just the skills and the things that we want students to come out of the class with. All of the lectures, all of the assignments, the weekly assignments and everything are geared toward these objectives, right? Course content. So we are an art history class, and that means we see a lot of images, a lot of different objects of different subject matter from all around the globe. And as a visual medium that is related to the humans, and humans create art and humans create culture, we are going to talk about a lot of different histories, a lot of different ideologies. Some of these are very similar, and some of them might seem very different and very complex. We're going to be looking at all of these histories, but we're going to treat all of it with very, very much respect and in a comparative manner. This class also shows artworks that will contain nudity and adult themes such as death, harm, trauma, illness, violence, etc. The list could go on. Just very intense adult themes and nudity. These two things are very much a part of art, right? And visual culture. Humans have always been attracted to the human form in all genders, all sexes, as a conduit for expression and meaning, right? So it's not just nudity, it's not just nakedness. There's something there, and it is our job in this class to understand what that is. Get to the meaning behind it. As well, themes such as death, harm, trauma, illness, and violence, notice these are all very intense things, intensely felt by an individual as well as a community and a society. And art has also been a conduit for that because it is a medium that doesn't require words. And something like emotion and hurt is very difficult often to express in words. It's sometimes easier and more effective to express it with art, doing something, creating something. And so we will delve with this in the class. And if that's not something that's not your wheelhouse, if that's just, you don't want to do that, you're like, it's not for me, then with no offense to me as the instructor, you can withdraw from the course. But just going ahead, just to letting you all know that this is what to expect. I ask that you come with an open mind and willingness to engage with these topics and artworks. And I guarantee you will have a great time in this class. You'll learn something from this class and you'll be glad that you took it. There is no textbook for the course. Any assigned readings, like actual text, or videos or podcasts or any other type of material, which I love to vary the things that I'm giving you to review. So it's not just readings. I'm going to have you listen and look of material. I will supply this to you in your weekly engagement activity portion of the course in assignments, and I will get to that very shortly. Next, this is a very key part of the syllabus that I want you guys to think about. So this class does not have a set day, time, lecture schedule because it is asynchronous and it's online. That being said, I have designed the course to have a flow, a weekly flow. So Mondays and Tuesdays is when I will drop and I will upload the video episode lectures in your modules, and I'll show you where that is. And I will do that by 5 p.m., right? So if you try to find it at 1 p.m., and it's not there for some reason, it's probably because I haven't uploaded yet. Lectures sometimes take longer than others, and sometimes I encounter technical issues on my end. But by 5 p.m., I will get them uploaded. And they also will have an accompanying study guide, right? This will be a written map of the lecture with things to note, key terms to keep in mind, key images to keep in mind, just to supplement the lectures and to help you to review the material, by the end of the week and when you're working on your projects. So that's the front end of the week. And then you have the rest of the week to decide when you have time to spend with the episodes, to work through the episodes, and that's up to your schedule. But every week on Sunday evenings, so Sundays 11 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, you will have an assignment due. It will either be a weekly engagement activity, which I call a WIA, or it might be an assignment related to the midterm or the final, right? But every week you'll have something to do that is engaging directly the lecture material, right? So I'm dropping them in the early in the week. You have time to listen to it, and then by Sunday you will have all the knowledge you need to complete that assignment. So this being said, you have to allocate at least 6 hours a week to work through your weekly module, which consists of the lectures, the study guides, and the end of week assignment. And that's the minimum. But that doesn't count the extra time you'll need to add when you're working on your larger projects, right? And so this is the time commitment that is needed to succeed in this course. So something to also think about if you can fit it in your schedule already, and use that to decide to move forward with the class. But like I said, I like to pace it like this because it makes sure that you as students aren't falling behind. And I've had students tell me that they really enjoy this about the class because they can't push things off, right? They can't say, oh, okay, I'll get to, lecture, I'll get to like 2 weeks worth of lectures, 1 week. And then they end up with 5 hours of lectures, and then they feel very paralyzed and very stressed about all of the work that they need to go through. I designed the course that you have to kind of work through the material every week and be on top of the class. So keep that in mind in your decision to stay. I hope you do. And so now the assignments. This is the real meat when it comes to your student work. And you'll have 3 main assignment categories that in total are worth 100 points. That makes it really easy for percentages. And like I said, the one of the big ones, the ones that you'll be doing quite frequently, are these weekly engagement activities, or WIAs, and they are due most Sundays at 11:59 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. And I say most Sundays because The weeks that you have other assignments due that are related to the midterm or the final, you will not have a WIA for those weeks because I want you to pay attention to, the main event, the midterm or the final. But so you'll have 11 WIAs in total. And these are very short, to the point written assignments between 150 to 200 words. And they are designed to, first and foremost, synthesize the ideas and concepts that I will be talking about in the lectures. And I want you to work through them in your own words. It's a way for you, in a very fun and engaging way, express your knowledge. How are you understanding what's happening in the week? What is your take on it? What are your ideas in relation to the class material, right? So it's really there for you to synthesize everything that you're going to be hearing in your own words and in a fun and engaging activity. And speaking of these activities, your first WIA for this week, which is due on Sunday, is a very low stakes introducing yourself discussion. And I have the prompt for that on that discussion. And a lot of you have already completed it, which thank you very much. That's awesome. Starting week 2, we will start getting into the real WIAs, like with what to expect with the WIAs. And they will rotate. So the type of WIA that you do will rotate every consecutive week, right? So you're not doing the same type of WIA category 2 weeks in a row. And I do this because, first, it's really boring to do the same thing over and over again, at least for me personally. I think it's more dynamic when you are kind of doing different things at different times. But also these WIAs are designed to activate very, very specific learning objectives for the class. And so the 3 WIAs that we are going to be doing is, first, what I call making visual connections. For this WIA, I will provide you an unknown image related in some way to the week's lecture, right? But I didn't discuss it. I didn't introduce it. And I will give you a prompt for discussing this unknown image. And so the making visual connections, we are emphasizing building a visual vocabulary. I want you guys to get accustomed to talking about art on visual terms, right? And being able to compare and contrast that visual vocabulary, the visual elements of a work or object with something that we have already seen in class that week. And I want your thoughts in discussing that. So that's making visual connections. Building interpretations. This is where I'm going to bring in primary source material, like excerpts, like brief, written excerpts. I might have you listen to a short podcast. I might have you watch a brief video, but they are all going to be related to what we're talking about each week. And the goal for this WIA is for you to see that people from different parts of the art world doing different things talk about art differently. And the meaning of art is different. So you're going to be listening to me as an art historian in this class talking about my view of art and what I think it is. But that is not the only point of view. There are other scholars in art history, there are artists, there are curators that all work within this same discipline that have very different perspectives. And so I want you guys to get used to seeing how the visual culture it's discussed by different people and professions. And so for this, I will have you read, listen, view, and then present what you think the main argument or point of that is. Like, what are they trying to say? Like, what is the gist, right, of it? And then offer your own perspective on how this relates to the class topics and concepts. Lastly, group discussion. This is typical, very classic Canvas group discussion. I will present the class with an open-ended topic or question selected from the week's lectures. It's somehow related, and you as a student will have your own post about answering or talking about that question or topic, and then you also have to comment on someone else's post. And here this last sentence is just a helpful hint on how do I create a discussion post that other people are like, yes, I want to engage with you, like I want to comment on you, I want to create a conversation. So take a look at that. And yeah, and then we'll start that week 2, our real WIAs. But don't forget your introductory discussion. So the other 2 big assignments are your midterm project and your final project. I don't do traditional exams in my classes. I do projects. I feel like they're more engaging and they're more fun to do and grade. And I think that and students really enjoy these kind of more creative projects. And so both of the midterm and the final will have 2 components. Right? You'll have a brainstorm and then you'll have the actual assignment. And so the brainstorm will be due the week before the actual assignment is due. And this will consist of a worksheet, right? So when I present the prompt, right, for this assignment, which will be posted week 3 with a video discussing the prompt, it will also include this worksheet, and it's there to populate with your ideas, your brainstorms, and anything that you're thinking about to prepare you to do this project. And I have students submit it a week before because it helps you get on top of the assignment. And for me, I like to see that everyone is actually working on the project and thinking about the project. It gives ample time for me to give you comments and feedback that is useful, and for you to also give me questions before the actual assignments are due. And so for the midterm, you're doing a visual analysis, and it's a scavenger hunt. So basically what I'm going to have you do is I'm going to have you find an object, an image, whatever, in your environment, your direct environment. And I am going to have you build a visual analysis of this item, right? Really thinking about its design, its lines, its forms, and how that maybe relates to its use or function and its meaning, right? And so it's going to be really fun, and it's going to be 500 words, double spaced, a little bit longer than a WIA. And once again, the rubric will have much more in depth of what the expectation for you for that assignment. The final project, you will also have a brainstorm that will be due, that once again will be, your work, right? Your worksheet. And that and the full prompt for the final project will be posted week 14, which seems very far away, but it will probably sneak upon us very soon. And I'm having you all do infographics. We have all seen infographics at some point in our lives, at the doctor's office, in hallways. I just saw one in the art department that was explaining why it's good to have an art degree. Why should you be an art major? And so what it consisted of was, images, text explaining the major, careers that you can have with it. And it had this wonderful flow and design. And it was basically teaching anyone who was just walking by who have general knowledge, a very discrete piece of information. Why is an art degree beneficial to you? And that's what I'm going to be doing for this class, but we are going to make infographics that are on visual themes, right? When we get to the course schedule, I'll show you that I organize the course around visual themes. So for instance, week 3 is the topic is making art, right? Mediums and processes. How is art constructed? So I'm asking, each one of you will have to pick a week and make your infographic related to something that I talked about that week. So for instance, I'd say, well, I really like that lecture. I'm going to make my infographic about making art, mediums, and processes. Or, week 9, we're talking about museums and institutions. I could choose that as my topic, right? So you're going to use images, text, and you create this really creative, instructional snippet of knowledge. And I will, when I introduce the prompt, I have lots of examples of what exactly I'm talking about. But to create your infographics, I'm using this free infographic generator called Canva. You just sign up, and it offers a really streamlined way of creating an infographic. You don't have to be a web designer. You can just drag and drop. It's very intuitive, and it makes very beautiful infographics that you can save in a JPEG or a PDF. And that makes it really easy to submit to me as well. And so those are the assignments. Hopefully you think that they're very doable. I think they're very doable. They pace really well. I have, thinking about grading assignments, I follow the standard scale of the school. But down here, I'll have you read through on your own. But, what does an A, B, C, D mean beyond just the numerical or letter grade? What is the qualitative? What is an A defined by? And so I have a little snippet of exactly what that means, ballpark, right? So when you're completing assignments, keep that in mind. And all of my assignments, including the WIAs, right, will have very detailed rubrics explaining exactly what the expectations are for each assignment and what you need to do, right? And late work, so you have 3 days basically until the assignment zeroes out. So the 1 day after the submission and it's not there, one letter grade will drop, et cetera, and then on the 3rd day, it will no longer be accepted and you get a 0. Of course, life happens, things happen. We live complicated lives with a lot of different things going on. If for some reason you can't submit by the deadline, please let me know as soon as possible. I try to be very flexible and accommodating. I just need to know ahead of time, right? Just let me know ahead of time and we can figure something out. So that's as much as the syllabus that I want to get into today. Like I said, there's a lot more. Read through it very carefully. So now let's take a look at the course schedule. Let that load. And I tend to have very detailed course schedules because I like everyone to know kind of, the trajectory of the course. Like, what are the different ideas that we're going to be talking about? I also include all of the deadlines as well in the course schedule. So you're always in track. You always know, what WIA you're doing, what assignment is coming up. And so, like I said at the beginning of this episode, the orientation is very much, what is the visual world? How does the visual world work? How do we talk about the visual world, art included? What other things count as the visual world that exists that may not be, specifically what we think of as, say, fine art? And so part 1 of the class, we're going to be really looking at foundations and vocabularies, right? You have to start somewhere, right? So we're really going to look at the basic components of vision, right? Because vision is very much like the written word, right? Writing, you have a grammar, right? There's grammar that helps you make sentences, which help you convey an idea or an expression. It's the same in the visual world. Images are constructed in a certain way. And so the first 2 weeks, we really are going to be looking at these very brass tacks way of talking about art, the grammar of the visual world. And then next, we're going to be looking at ways of seeing, right? And what this means is that we're going to be thinking about, well, how does art create meaning? How does meaning attach to art? How does value attach to art, right? And we'll be looking at specific topics there. Then we'll be thinking about art as a vehicle for ideology. Like, for instance, how does art become aligned with politics, right? And it's very, and it has, for a very long time. So that's ways of seeing. We'll be thinking about, well, how has art created a sense of organizing our space, right? How do we get the sense that there can be a horizon, right, far off in the distance? And why is it that objects always look smaller the further you away from a set position, right? So art and the visual world has very much created our sense of space, as well as how we see our body, right? How we actually perceive our body, both the surface, but also the internal body. And we're going to be looking at kind of limits to perspective. Part 3, we're going to be looking at practices of viewing, right? So this is the active viewing. This is viewing as a verb. And so we're going to be looking at the gaze, right, which is a very important concept in practices of viewing. We'll be looking at the viewing that science has, right? So scientists, people working in technology, how that active looking affects art in the visual world. And then, of course, we'll be looking at museums and institutions, because museums and institutions, they present art in a certain way to audiences as well. Part 4, we'll be looking at visual technology, because the visual world is part of a vast system of economics, the digital world, actual technology, right? Photography is a technology, a visual technology, which we'll be talking about. And so we'll be thinking about, well, what is reproduction and copying, right? How does that affect the meaning of an object? Art and mass culture, things that are meant to be transmitted in mass to a public. Marketing and consumption, branding, consumerism, the global art market, right? This is like the economics of the visual world. And then our last big segment will be unfixing the gaze. This is the portion of the class where we're really going to think about how, for the first few parts of the class, we'll be really thinking about systems, right? That established systems and institutions. Part 5, we're going to start to break down those institutions a bit. How have artists or different entities used the system in a certain way as a means of critique, or a means to unfix a certain established way of viewing the world and presenting visual culture in a certain way. So week 13, we'll be looking at very postmodern ways of doing this through irony, parody, and iconoclasm. We'll have Thanksgiving break there too. And then week 15, we'll be thinking about borrowing the image. So appropriation, right? Using one image for something totally different, right? Beyond copyright infringement, right? That you're actually using and repeating an image for the vehicle of a specific type of critique or an interpretation. So this is the structure of the class. I hope that you are excited, because I'm very excited for you to be here to talk about these wonderful things. And so just to leave off real quick, I want you to look at your modules. So like I said, this is how you will stay on course in this class. Every week has a module. My lecture videos and the study guides will populate here. This is where you will see them and view them. And then here, you will always have a link to your WIA or whatever assignment is due that week. And so use this as the way that you work through that 6 hours minimum of class time a week. So that's it for this episode. I hope you have a great day, and I am so excited to get started, and I hope you are too.